Healthcare journey. It is a lifelong journey for everyone. To live a long and healthy life. It's a universal wish for all people. However, how that journey unfolds is unique to each of us. There are various events that happen in life. Often life goes on peacefully, but there are times where a shadow can be cast upon us. This is Olivia. On this day, she attends a routine checkup as usual. It was a simple blood draw. However, they found a cause for concern. The test results showed the possibility of illness in her future. She is understandably surprised because Olivia has yet to show even the slightest of symptoms. But technology showed her a glimpse of what the future will look like if nothing is done.
And I just wanted to be alone also. I cannot be always with somebody around me.
She seems like a different person. Her diagnosis suggests such a future. But the future can be changed. Olivia's healthcare journey can be transformed to a brighter one. Utilizing our technology, we can watch over Olivia and support her healthcare journey. She can continue to lead a vibrant life. It seems like there is another person here who needs help. This is Jorge. He had cancer. Remote surgery by a doctor in a distant location allowed him to receive state-of-the-art medical care. His healthcare journey continues on. Jorge's condition was constantly monitored on a genetic level. Subsequent relapses were prevented, and he continues to flourish. The future of healthcare journeys are bright, filled with peace of mind. We envision a healthcare future where diseases are prevented before they progress. We will offer solutions and advanced technology to make your healthcare journey better. Imagine curing a disease developed later in life by utilizing a patient's own cells stored from when they were healthy. Our mission is to shape the advancement of healthcare, not only for developed countries, but for all regions around the world. Healthcare journey. It is about seeing various healthcare events throughout your life and the processes that support your healthcare as a journey. we embrace people's universal desire to live long and healthy lives. Sysmex will accompany and support you on this journey. Together for a better healthcare journey.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat pagi dan selamat datang kepada Profesor, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu, seluruh peserta, juga seluruh narasumber dan moderator yang telah hadir. Kepada yang terhormat, Profesor, Dokter Anak Agung Wiradewi Lestari, Spesialis Patologi Klinik Subspesialis Kardiovaskular Konsultan, Subspesialis Bank Darah dan Kedokteran Transfusi Konsultan. Kemudian Profesor Dr. Ida Parwati, Spesialis Patologi Klinik Subspesialis Penyakit Infeksi Konsultan, PhD. And then our special speakers, Dr. Rodelio Domingo Lim from Philippines. Good morning. I kindly apologize for this webinar we will conducting in Bahasa. We sincerely hope that you can still participate and follow the proceeding smoothly. Selamat datang di acara webinar yang dipersembahkan oleh Kolegium Patologi Klinik berkolaborasi dengan PT Sysmex Indonesia dengan tema Optimizing Laboratory Efficiency with Laboratory Management System yang terselenggara secara online. Tak lupa juga kami ingin menyapa para peserta yang telah hadir. Selamat datang kepada Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu yang telah hadir dalam acara webinar ini. Semoga tetap sehat dan semangat dalam menimba ilmu. Perkenankan, saya Okta Nugraha dari PT Sysmex Indonesia sebagai MC pada hari ini yang akan membantu jalannya acara sampai dengan siang hari nanti. Puji dan syukur marilah kita panjatkan kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena berkat rahmat dan karunia-Nya, kita semua dapat berkumpul untuk mengadakan acara yang semoga dapat bermanfaat bagi Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu sekalian. Webinar ini bertujuan untuk mengupdate ilmu pengetahuan mengenai tata kelola laboratorium serta transformasi digitalisasi laboratorium. Agenda acara pada hari ini akan dibuka dengan menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya. Dilanjutkan dengan pembacaan doa, dan secara resmi akan ada sambutan dari perwakilan Kolegium Patologi Klinik dan juga dilanjutkan oleh sambutan dari PT Sysmex Indonesia. Setelahnya masuk ke sesi ilmiah di mana topik yang akan dibawakan sangat menarik. Yang pertama akan ada keynote speech dengan tema Laboratory Transformation in Digitalization Era in Indonesia yang akan dibawakan oleh Profesor Dr. Ida Parwati, Spesialis Patologi Klinik Subspesialis Penyakit Infeksi Konsultan PhD. Kemudian akan dilanjutkan oleh sesi ilmiah dengan tema Concept and Application of Laboratory Information System yang akan dibawakan oleh Dr. Rodelio Domingo Lim from Philippines. Dilanjutkan dengan sesi Q&A dan juga penutup. Baik, para peserta webinar, untuk mengawali acara pada pagi hari ini, marilah kita menyanyikan lagu Kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Kepada Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu, mohon untuk berkenan untuk sikap sempurna. Baik, selanjutnya agar acara berlangsung dengan lancar, marilah kita sama-sama berdoa untuk mengawali acara pada pagi hari ini. Kepada Profesor, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu, dapat berdoa sesuai kepercayaan dan agamanya masing-masing. Berdoa, kami persilakan. Berdoa selesai. Merupakan suatu kebanggaan bagi kita semua untuk dapat berkolaborasi di acara yang baik ini. Marilah kita saksikan bersama sambutan dari perwakilan Kolegium Pathology Clinic yang akan disampaikan oleh Ketua Pathology Clinic yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Ida Parwati, Spesialis Pathology Klinik Subspesialis Penyakit Infeksi Konsultan PhD. Kepada yang terhormat Prof. Ida kami persilahkan.
Terima kasih, Okta. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi yang saya cintai, para Kaprodi, para Kepala Departemen, dan para residen patologi klinik saya absen satu-satu ya. Satu di Universitas Sumatera Utara Medan, Universitas Andalas Padang, Universitas Indonesia Jakarta, Universitas Pajajaran Bandung, Universitas Diponegoro Semarang, Universitas Gajah Mada Jogja, Universitas 11 Maret Solo, Universitas Brawijaya Malang, Universitas Erlangga Surabaya, Universitas Hasanuddin Makassar, tadi sudah ada dari Makassar ya, kemudian Universitas Udayana Denpasar. Alhamdulillah, di awal tahun 2024 ini Kolegium kembali menyelenggarakan kuliah tamu ya. Kali ini kita mengundang Dr. Rodelio Domingo Lim dari Institute of Pathology St. Luke's Medical Center Quezon City, Filipina, mengenai Lab Information Management System. Saya yakin sebagian besar dari kita ini berada di laboratorium yang sudah melaksanakan transformasi digital dengan LAS-nya. Namun nanti ketika para lulusan para residen ini mulai bekerja ya barangkali akan ditempatkan di Fasiankes yang belum menerapkannya. Nah, saya berharap ya acara ini sebagai semacam pembekalan ya, kalaupun sudah melaksanakan dapat sebagai penyegaran. Di sini saya bertindak sebagai pengantar untuk Dr. Rodelio ya. Saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada PT Sismek yang telah menghubungkan kami Kolegium dengan Dr. Rodelio. I would like to thanks to Dr. Rodelio for your willingness to accept our invitation and share your knowledge with us. Terima kasih, semoga bermanfaat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih banyak Prof. Ida atas sambutannya yang luar biasa. Sebagai penyedia solusi penunjang laboratorium di Indonesia, Sismek sangat bangga dapat terus mendukung program-program dari Kolegium Pathology Clinic. Untuk itu, marilah kita saksikan bersama sambutan yang akan dibawakan oleh Ibu Suli Kosasi, Manager Scientific Affairs PT Sismek Indonesia. Kepada Ibu Suli yang terhormat, kami persilakan.
Selamat pagi, Prof. Dokter, Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, juga kepada Prof. Ida, Prof. Dewi, dan Dr. Rodelio Lim. Good morning, welcome. Selamat datang di guest lecture webinar kita pagi ini. Pada kesempatan ini, saya mewakili PT Sismek Indonesia ingin menyampaikan terima kasih atas dukungan dan kolaborasi dari Kolegium Pathology Klinik sehingga acara ini dapat terlaksana. Melalui kegiatan ini, Sismek Indonesia ingin menunjukkan komitmen kami untuk terus mendukung kemajuan dan berbagi ilmu pengetahuan, khususnya dalam bidang ilmu kedokteran laboratorium. Tema yang dibahas dalam webinar ini adalah Laboratory Information System, yang akan membahas update ilmu dan pengetahuan mengenai tata kelola laboratorium, serta transformasi digitalisasi laboratorium demi mendukung peningkatan pelayanan kesehatan yang lebih baik. Oleh karena itu, dalam kesempatan yang baik ini, saya mengundang Prof. Dokter, Bapak Ibu semua untuk memaksimalkan kegiatan ini dengan berpartisipasi aktif selama webinar. Mari kita saling berdiskusi serta aktif mengajukan pertanyaan. Akhir kata, selamat mengikuti webinar. Terima kasih atas partisipasinya. Semoga acara ini bermanfaat bagi kita semua.
Baik. Terima kasih kepada Ibu Suli Kosasi, Scientific Affairs dari PT Sismek Indonesia yang telah memberikan sambutannya. Sebelum memasuki sesi ilmiah dengan tema Optimizing Laboratory Efficiency with Laboratory Information Management System, izinkan kami menginformasikan beberapa rules meeting agar webinar berjalan dengan baik. Baik kepada peserta online, kami mohon untuk dapat memastikan jaringan internet Anda dalam keadaan baik dan stabil, agar dapat menyaksikan webinar ini dengan nyaman. Para peserta juga dapat mengajukan pertanyaan melalui fitur chat pada Zoom di layar Bapak dan Ibu sekalian dengan mengetik nama, institusi, tujuan pertanyaan, serta pertanyaan yang ingin diajukan. Baik, tanpa berlama-lama lagi, kami akan memulai sesi ilmiah yang akan dipimpin oleh Profesor Dr. Anak Agung Widadari Lestari, spesialis patologi klinik, subspesialis kardiovaskular konsultan, subspesialis bank darah kedokteran transfusi konsultan. Sebelumnya, izinkan saya untuk membacakan CV dari Prof. Dewi. Prof. Dewi menyelesaikan pendidikan kedokterannya di Universitas Udayana Bali pada tahun 2001. Kemudian beliau melanjutkan pendidikan spesialis patologi klinik di Universitas Airlangga Surabaya pada tahun 2006. Beliau mendapatkan gelar PhD di Universitas Udayana Denpasar Bali pada tahun 2012, serta kemudian beliau menyelesaikan subspesialis Blood Bank and Transfusion Medicine Consultant di Universitas Gadjah Mada Yogyakarta pada tahun 2020. Beliau juga menyelesaikan pendidikan subspesialis Kardiocerebrovascular Consultant di Indonesian Clinical Pathology Collegium pada tahun 2021. Beliau saat ini aktif sebagai Wakil Ketua Kolegium Patologi Klinik, juga sebagai staf dari Laboratorium Klinik RSUP Prof. Ngurah Denpasar, serta Kepala Laboratorium Klinik di Rumah Sakit Surya Husada Denpasar. Baik, tanpa berlama lagi, kami persilakan untuk Prof. Dewi dapat memimpin jalannya acara sesi ilmiah. Silakan, Prof. Mohon izin kepada Prof. Dewi, apakah masih bersama kami, Prof? Izin? Masih mute. Mohon izin, Prof. Boleh di-unmute, izin, Prof. Kita nggak bisa lanjut. Mohon izin, saat ini belum terdengar suaranya Prof. Izin, Prof. Saya akan coba dulu dibantu oleh tim admin kami. Apakah... Oke, baik.
Tadi
Ya,
belum
baik,
unmute.
Prof. Oh, baik, Prof.
Oke, saya unmute tapi nggak bisa.
Oh,
Oke,
baik, Prof.
thank you, Okta. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mira Dewi, the moderator of today's guest lecture. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this guest lecture held by Indonesian College of Clinical Pathology in conjunction with HISMEC Indonesia. Today's guest lecture is about optimizing laboratory efficiency with laboratory management systems. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we start the lecture, I will present our special guest lecturer today, and there will be two very special speakers. First is Prof. Dr. Ida Parwati, Dr. SPK, Subspesialis Penyakit Infeksi Konsultan PhD, that will give a lecture about laboratory transformation in digitalization era in Indonesia. And Mr. Rodelio Domingo Lim, MD, FPSP from Philippines, that will give a lecture about concept and application of laboratory information system. And before the presentation begins, let me inform how the presentation will be going on. And first, Prof. Ida will be invited to present the presentation and will be continued with the second speaker, Mr. Rodelio. And after that, there will be question and answer session and followed by conclusion. And now, allow me to welcome the first speakers, Prof. Ida Parwati, and introduce her. Please, the slide of CV, Prof. Ida. Okay, the CV of her. Okay, Prof. Ida got the medical doctor from Universitas Padjadjaran in 1982, and in 1992, a clinical pathologist, and 2004, a doctor from Universitas Padjadjaran, and 2007, consultant of tropical and infectious disease, clinical microbiology.
HP-nya 7. Ya, ini dengan Mbak siapa nih?
Sorry,
Oke.
PPDSPK Tara, please unmute.
7, Pak. Ya.
PPDSPK Tara, please unmute.
Belum keluar.
Okay, we continued the CV of Prof. Ida, and 2009, PhD from Radboud University Medical Center, the Netherlands, and in 2011, professor in clinical pathology, Universitas Padjadjaran. And from 2007 until 2017, she was head of Department of Clinical Pathology, Dr. Hasan Sadikin Hospital, Medical Faculty Unpad. And from 2013 until 2019, she was president of the Indonesian Association of Clinical Pathologists and Laboratory Medicine. And at the same time, she was board member of Asian Society of Clinical Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. And now, from 2022 until 2025, she is chairman of Indonesian College of Clinical Pathology. Okay, Prof. Ida, time is yours.
Thank you, Prof. Dewi, for your nice introduction. Please excuse me because I think most of the audience is from Indonesia, and I will present it in bahasa Indonesia. Ya, okay, let me share screen. Mudah-mudahan sudah bisa terlihat ya.
Oke, clear, Prof.
Oke, ya. Jadi sebelum nanti Dr. Rodelio menyampaikan presentasinya, ya, saya ingin menyampaikan mengenai sampai mana sih posisi kita ya, posisi Indonesia di dalam digitalization era ini. Nanti kemudian laboratoriumnya seperti apa? Ya. Ini outline yang akan disampaikan. Nah, ini the future of health in Indonesia ya. Jadi Kementerian Kesehatan kita ini sudah one step ahead ya. Jadi ke depan akan ada single identity health record, ada simplification of health services, ada regulatory innovation for strengthening health digital ecosystem. Semua ini tidak akan terbangun dengan baik kalau memang tidak ada digital transformation ya. Kalau kita tidak berlayar ke arah sana ya. Pada tahun 2021 Kementerian Kesehatan tuh sudah membuat satu buku ya, Digital Health Transformation Strategy. Kemudian dilanjutkan dengan Landscape Analysis of Digital Health for Universal Health Coverage in Indonesia di tahun 2022 ya. Jadi di sini kita bisa melihat bahwa step by step atau coverage yang akan dilayani oleh Kementerian Kesehatan kita ini sangat komprehensif ya. Jadi dari mulai pelayanannya, kemudian health industry-nya gimana ya, kemudian bagaimana mutual benefit through ease of services and integrated information. Nah ini penting sekali ya. Kemudian kalau kita melihat ke arah One Health Data Indonesia ya, atau satu sehat ya, di situ tuh semua informasi-informasi mengenai Center for Food and Drug Supervision ya, ini eh, bagian-bagian dari Kementerian Kesehatan, kemudian juga dari divisi pendidikannya ya, semua akan mendapatkan informasi dan menggali ya dari contoh nih ya, farmasi and medical equipment, consumables-nya, kemudian akan bagaimana distribusinya kepada healthcare ya, kemudian drugs, medical equipment, kemudian dari sisi health human resource-nya ya, bagaimana health worker candidate yang akan diterima, kemudian yang sudah bekerja, bagaimana kenaikan pangkatnya dan sebagainya ya, itu akan berada informasinya itu di dalam satu sehat ya. Laboratorium kita lihat bahwa di sini nih ininya ya, apa namanya tempatnya. Nah, sebetulnya digital transformation itu apa sih gitu ya? Jadi sudah kira-kira hampir 10 tahun barangkali ya, the world is moving into the digital era ya. Nah, mau nggak mau suatu laboratorium medical laboratorium seperti kita ini ya, itu kan merupakan suatu institusi di mana implementasi dari technological innovation tuh berada sangat kuat di situ ya. Nah, itu hanya bisa terjadi kalau memang menerapkan digital transformation. Ya. Jadi digital transformation itu adalah suatu proses yang bertujuan untuk meningkatkan suatu kinerja laboratorium ya dengan melakukan apa namanya perubahan kombinasi dari bagaimana informasi yang datang dan akan dikeluarkan, computingnya, communicationnya, dan connecting technology. Nah, mengenai connecting technology ini nanti akan disampaikan oleh Dr. Rodelio. Ya. Jadi secara umumnya nih ya, digital transformation itu is a switch from paper-based atau manual proses ya ke arah suatu teknologi baru yang cepat yang dapat membantu kita ya untuk untuk mewujudkan apa namanya visi kita ke depan ya. Jadi suatu proses yang mengubah dari sebetulnya asalnya dari industri ini ya, dari suatu low value task menjadi fokus ke high value task ya. Nah, berbeda dengan digitation ya. Kalau digital transformation di medical laboratory atau digitalization itu involve berbagai berbagai hal yang menggunakan digital teknologi untuk collect data, automate proses ya, establish trend dan mark better business decision ke depannya ya. Jadi kalau selama ini misalnya kita bayangkan saja kalau sampai saat ini masih banyak kan yang meminta atau request form dari laboratorium masih tertulis ya, tapi di negara-negara maju atau mungkin di beberapa rumah sakit dan laboratorium yang sudah canggih, permintaan lab itu sudah melalui komputer ya. Nah, dulu bisa dengan menulis, belum kalau tulisannya kebaca ya, sampai saat ini aja membaca diagnosis yang ditulis oleh dokter, aduh ini apa gitu ya. Nah, kemudian karena daftar item atau list item-itemnya itu sangat rapat ya, kadang-kadang mencoretnya mungkin lebih dari yang dia minta gitu ya. Nah, kalau misalnya nanti dengan computerized tentu itu akan lebih precise ya. Nah, jadi untuk sampai ke arah sana, jadi kalau kita dulu ya memproduksi hasil aja ya, ke depan hasil ini kemudian sudah ditransformasi sedemikian rupa sehingga apa namanya membantu klinisi untuk memutuskan atau mendiagnosis atau memutuskan pengobatan yang akan diberikan kepada pasien bergantung kepada hasil lab kita ya. Jadi the transformation to lab 4.0 ini kalau di industri ini kita masih 4.0 ya, belum 5.0 ya. Ini membutuhkan suatu proses yang meningkatkan suatu digital maturity. Apa sih digital maturity? Kita lihat berikutnya ya. Jadi digital maturity itu membutuhkan suatu konektivitas ya, konektivitas dari mulai contohnya kalau kita di lab yang ada sekarang ya, dari mulai pendaftaran, kemudian input ke dalam mesin, output dari mesin, balik lagi ke laboratory information system ya, terus kemudian divalidasi dan itu kemudian akan langsung dapat dibaca oleh customer kita ya. Jadi end-to-end workflow and advanced analytical technology and teknik ya. Nah, kuncinya adalah Internet of Things, artificial intelligence ya, machine learning dan sebagainya. Itu mencakup di dalamnya semuanya ya. Nah, jadi dengan pekerjaan-pekerjaan yang sifatnya repetitif ya, mengulang-ulang, misalnya hanya memasukkan sampel ke apa namanya ke jarum yang untuk menghisap sampel ini ke dalam mesin, itu kan bisa dikerjakan oleh mesin. Nah, jadi pekerjaan kita apa dong? Nah, pekerjaan kita sudah harus berubah ya dari tadinya repetitif teknik tadi ya, kemudian sekarang harus berubah ke arah yang meaningful work ya, mengkomunikasikan hasil lab pada para klinisi, berdiskusi dengan klinisi, itu yang diinginkan ke depan sebetulnya. Nah, sebetulnya apa sih yang menjadi key driver dari digital transformation itu ya? Ya di dunia ini kita nggak bisa tertinggal, nggak boleh tertinggal gitu ya, karena kalau teknologinya sudah begini ya harus mengikuti mau nggak mau ya. Jadi dari sisi laboratorium ya itu tuh kita harus memikirkan cost and benefit-nya, kita harus memikirkan kualitasnya, kemudian workload yang begitu besar nggak akan bisa diatasi oleh manual work ya. Itu dari sisi laboratorium. Kemudian dari sisi pasien sekarang ini sudah sangat pandai-pandai, dia menginginkan kualitas yang jauh lebih baik, accessibility terhadap data ya, accessibility terhadap informasi. Klinisi apalagi ya, kadang-kadang klinisi ini misalnya baru pulang dari luar, melihat di luar, oh sudah begini, gimana sih yang di Indonesia? Nah ya kadang-kadang informasi itu ditangkap oleh mereka seperti mudah gitu ya, sehingga mereka berharap bahwa lab-lab di Indonesia juga demikian gitu ya. Nah tuntutan dari klinisi juga menjadi driver dari digital transformation ini. Kemudian kalau kita lihat dari sisi data ya, laboratorium itu punya big data yang begitu besarnya. Nanti kita lihat ya di slide berikutnya ya. Nah ini tentu saja tidak boleh tidak dimanfaatkan ya. Kalau misalnya manual, susah banget kita untuk men-trace-nya ya. Tapi kalau berada di dalam satu digital formation ya, nah kita bisa lebih mudah ya. Teknologi tentu saja teknologi di luar nih wah sudah begitu cepatnya ya. Contohnya aja dari HP ya, itu mungkin sebulan sekali ada teknologi baru untuk HP kita ya. Nah, apa sih the importance of connectivity in the lab ini ya? Nah, nanti connectivity ini akan dibahas oleh Dr. Rodelio ya. Jadi dengan adanya connectivity tidak dari mesin ke mesin saja ya. Dari suatu manajemen di laboratorium ya, mulai dari pendaftaran, kemudian masuk ke dalam pencatatan di lab, masuk ke dalam mesin, nanti hasil divalidasi ya, kemudian dikirimkan lagi kepada customer kita, itu sangat memerlukan connectivity yang digital gitu ya. Jadi pentingnya connectivity akan meningkatkan laboratory data quality ya. Jadi mengeliminasi atau mengurangi pekerjaan yang manual, yang repetitif ya. Nanti LIMS ya ini akan mereduksi kesalahan-kesalahan transcription error ya, kesalahan-kesalahan menyalin. Sehingga dengan demikian ini akan meningkatkan kualitas data kita ya, apalagi di beberapa rumah sakit sudah mulai e-medical record ya. Kemudian empowering laboratory personnel. Jadi dengan mengurangi pekerjaan seseorang di lab ini untuk mengerjakan hal-hal yang bersifat repetitif tadi ya, dia akan lebih lebih meningkatkan lagi dan mengembangkan skillnya gitu ya. Tidak hanya mengerjakan yang repetitif, tapi mengembangkan kemampuan interpretasi dan sebagainya ya. Kemudian easy auditing and laboratory compliance. Untuk mengauditnya menjadi lebih mudah ya, misalnya ada kesalahan nih, kesalahan di penerimaan hasil. Nah, di mana nih kesalahan itu terjadi? Nah, dengan menggunakan connectivity digital ini tentu akan lebih mudah ya. Slick and seamless laboratory supplies ya, easy to manage sample and consumables by tracking and monitoring, ensuring supplies are used optimally ya. Jadi ini juga memudahkan ya kita memantau supply yang datang ke laboratorium. Nah, kemudian dari situ kita juga dapat mengidentify deeper insight from laboratory data. Jadi lab itu menjadi semacam treasure buat kita gitu ya. Data yang bisa digunakan untuk apa aja ya. Jadi kalau untuk pasien ya itu pasti ya, untuk klinisi ya itu pasti. Tapi yang tersimpan kan bisa dipakai untuk macam-macam ya, untuk meneliti epidemiologi ya, men-tracking ke belakang ya, hal-hal yang bisa dipakai untuk penelitian. Nah, jadi apa sih fungsi-fungsi yang dapat diatasi oleh suatu digital transformation di dalam laboratorium? Banyak sekali ya. Jadi optimasi dari proses, optimasi dari turnaround time ya, kemudian testing capacity allocation. Jadi testing capacity-nya akan lebih menjadi besar ya, kemudian utilization management ya, error detection, banyak ya yang bisa digunakan. Saya mungkin menjadi saksi ya dari dulu yang sangat manual ya, kemudian bagaimana bertransformasi menjadi digitalization ya. Jadi begitu mudahnya sekarang men-trace back, misalnya ingin mencari karena saya diinfeksi ya, pola bakteri penyebab ISK dari tahun sekian. Nah, sekarang sih gampang. Kalau dulu kita membutuhkan pengumpulan data dari buku yang tebal-tebal gitu ya, mencatat sendiri itu sangat menyulitkan. Nah, namun demikian tidak mudah juga ya untuk bertransformasi ini karena complexity of clinical laboratory service. Kita ini laboratorium ini kompleks ya. Kompleksnya itu dari sisi parameter yang diperiksa, dari sisi spesimen yang macam-macam ya, dari sisi perbedaan perbedaan reference value ya dari berbagai insert kit. Jadi memang rada kompleks ini tuh ya. Jadi harus mau bekerja keras. Lack of resources, kemudian resistennya kadang-kadang capek deh gitu ya mempelajari komputer baru. Kalau enggak misalnya enggak mau mengubah kebiasaan atau enggak mau menginvestasi. Terus terang aja memang untuk hal ini perlu investasi yang cukup besar sebetulnya ya. Nah, tantangannya juga banyak ya. Jadi gimana sih menghandle data yang begini kompleks ya. Kemudian mengubah budaya dari yang biasanya seperti ini, mencatat, ditulis, sebenarnya bisa dilihat langsung, sekarang harus buka komputer dan sebagainya ya. Jadi banyak hambatan dan tantangan ya sebetulnya untuk ke sini. Nah, jadi kalau kita ingin bertransformasi dari traditional laboratory kemudian menjadi smart laboratory ya, yang di dalam strateginya itu ya melalui digital transformation, are we ready? Ya, udah siap belum sih kita ya nanti menjadi e-connection, e-archive, e-decide ya, e-manage. Nah, siap nggak kita? Nah, memang butuh strategi ya. Tadi saya sampaikan bahwa saya ini udah senior nih ya, jadi mengalami mengalami betul bagaimana transformasi dari manual sistem menjadi digitalized seperti sekarang ini ya. Nanti kalau misalnya kita ditempatkan di laboratorium tempat 3T ya, terluar, tertinggal ya, terbelakang misalnya ya, apa yang harus kita lakukan? Ya, nggak bisa sekaligus ya, tapi step by step. Tapi kita harus punya mapping dulu. Nanti akan seperti apa sih laboratorium yang kita dirikan, gitu ya. Investment di dalam digitalization ini memang akan pay off-nya tuh jangka panjang ya. Tetapi jangan lupa ya bahwa nanti di jangka panjang itu bisa terbagi menjadi jangka-jangka yang pendek-pendek, tapi itu sudah apa namanya membantu kita membuat suatu laboratorium yang apa namanya dapat mengeluarkan hasil yang akurat dan cepat ya. Kemudian digital culture ini will be a very important part of digital transformation and it takes time to get fully established ya. Jadi hampir di kita ya di Indonesia ini hampir tidak ada misalnya yang ujuk-ujuk buruk terbangun dari awal sampai akhir end to end work kita itu establish demikian rupa ya, biasanya sedikit-sedikit ya. Nah, siapa yang akan membantu kita ya? Nah, tentu kita sebagai DSPK ranahnya tidak di situ ya, tapi kita harus pandai-pandai memilih partner kita yang bisa apa namanya membantu membantu solusi dari lab ini ingin seperti apa. Nah, we have to choose the right partners ya untuk itu. Nah, jadi digital transformation ini creating more value ya. Jadi retain loyal customer, increase revenue ya, karena semuanya jadi hasil-hasilnya akurat, cepat ya. Tentu saja kecepatan yang tinggi ini memudahkan kita untuk menerima workload yang tinggi juga ya. Nah, kalau kita labnya ini sudah sangat baik, tentu attract talents ya, yang nanti talents ini juga akan meningkatkan performa laboratorium kita ya. Shorter process time, achieve error reduction ya, dan cost saving nanti ke depan. Jadi kesimpulannya ya, saya sebagai pengantar Dr. Rodelio ini ya, dengan digital transformation ini kita tidak lagi bekerja yang repetitif, tetapi kita memberikan solusi atau informasi production, dari information production to directing decision making ya. Jadi kita membantu para klinisi untuk menentukan ya diagnosis baik maupun terapi ya. Kemudian minimize the number of low value tasks and focus on high value task ya. Jadi tidak bekerja di lab aja yang di depan alat atau di dalam komputer, tapi kita memberikan expertise yang lebih berharga. Sama nih ya, focusing from routine to more complex and meaningful work, improve laboratory data quality to maximize patient care. Ya, jadi patient care ini tidak saja dihasilkan dari hasil-hasil lab yang saat itu diterima oleh pasien ya, tetapi ketika kita mereview, ketika kita membuat suatu pola ya dalam sekian tahun secara epidemiologi, ini juga suatu saat akan meningkatkan ya pemahaman kita dan masukan kita untuk pelayanan terhadap pasien-pasien kita. Kemudian juga dengan digital di medical laboratory ini ya, digitalization di medical lab ini, remote monitoring ini bukannya kita malas-malasan di rumah, lihat aja dari rumah, nggak datang ke rumah sakit atau nggak datang ke lab, bukan begitu ya. Tapi ketika ada sesuatu problem ya yang butuh bantuan kita sebagai konsultannya atau berkonsultasi dengan kita, nah dari rumah pun kita bisa membantu gitu ya. Nah, jadi dengan digital transformation ini ya, itu sebetulnya empowerment of laboratory personnel ya, dari pekerjaan yang low value task ke high value task ya. Mungkin itu yang dapat saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Selamat. Ini terima kasih dalam bahasa Tagalog ya, Dr. Rodelio. And thank you. Semoga bermanfaat. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya kembalikan ke Prof. Dewi. Terima kasih Prof. Dewi. Saya stop share ya.
Baik, terima kasih Prof. Ida.
Oke.
Thank you for the informative presentation, Prof. And a reminder for all participants, we will give Sysmex exclusive book for 5 best questions. So yeah, please stay tuned in this lecture. And now, please allow me to welcome the second speaker, Mr. Rodelio Lim, and I will introduce him. Please, the slide of CV Dr. Rodelio. Okay. Mr. Rodelio Domingo Lim, MD, FPSP. He got Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology, University of Santo Tomas in 1981. And in 1985, Doctor of Medicine, University of Santo Tomas. And 2012, Diploma Leadership and Management Development Program, Center of Continuing Education, Graduate School of Business, Ateneo de Manila University. And from 2016 until 2017, Management Development Program, ASEAN Institute of Management. And he was head, until now, head laboratory department, Dr. Jesus Delgado Memorial Hospital, and active medical staff at Department of Anatomic Pathology, University of Santo Tomas Hospital, and also active medical staff of Department Clinical Pathology, University of Santo Tomas Hospital. And from 2016 until now, he's chief section of Immunochemistry and Molecular Biology, Department of Clinical Pathology, University of Santo Tomas Hospital. And from 1994 until now, he's chairman, Institute of Pathology, Sandux Medical Center, Global City, and Quezon City. Okay, Mr. Rodelio, time is yours.
Okay, good morning. So I'm Dr. Lim. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm the head of the Institute of Pathology of St. Luke's Medical Center. I'm going to talk on managing resources within information technology. So we will be mainly discussing about the use of laboratory information system that we use in our hospital. This is our hospital. So it's St. Luke's Medical Center, basically in 2 locations in the Philippines. And we have a bed capacity of around 1,000 patients for both hospitals. So why do we have laboratory information system, and why is this important? So first of all, the efficiency and productivity it gives us will do automation and also streamlining of laboratory processes, which will reduce manual errors. So you see that many laboratories with doing manual procedures will have potential of errors, as the manual steps can always cause errors in most laboratory procedures. It also helps in data accuracy and quality. It ensures that the accuracy of the results and so that reliability of laboratory results are intact. It also satisfies regulatory compliance, which provides tools for tracking and also for managing quality control. As it is said, most laboratory tests will require quality control runs prior to running patient samples. It will also be used for integration with other systems, such as communication between different departments in the hospital, and also continuity of patient care. As a workflow automation, it will help automate complex laboratory procedures or workflows, thereby reducing errors. It will also be good inventory, as stocks in the laboratory testing kits will also be monitored. It's also good for data security and privacy, which maintains safety. Reporting and analysis of results will provide tools for generating comprehensive reports for the clinicians to use as part of their patient management and also for analysis of laboratory data. The LIS will also enhance communication, that is, as it facilitates better communication among laboratory staff, healthcare providers, and other stakeholders, even when the laboratory operates on a 24-hour basis. This is the front of our Institute of Pathology in the hospital, and you can see the reception area, and you can see that most of the processes will utilize LIS. As what you can see here, this is the desktop of the LIS that we use, which is HC Lab, or High Connectivity Laboratory in short. And also we'll cover blood bank processes, microbiology, as well as processes in the anatomic pathology laboratory, not only in the core lab, which covers your hematology, serology, chemistry, and clinical microscopy. So the desktop will provide us with icons that will be very user-friendly and will be the same icon that you will see all throughout the system that will allow the user to have them in memory and therefore be very familiar with how the system operates. So we have the toolbar menu on the top. We also have the sidebar menu, which will tell you details of what the toolbar menu will be able to do. And also we have the main menu and also the status bar now that will allow the user to know at which part or at which point of the procedure or process the test is being run and also the step that is being performed by the one performing the test. The work status inquiry will provide the head of the laboratory to view the work status by test or by workstation in the laboratory with a breakdown summary of pending tests, completed tests, or maybe rejected specimens. The query patient result will allow the provider, the user, will provide the user with several selection criteria in order to find the patient results in the database. So the finding these results can either be through the patient's age, the patient's name maybe, and the patient's gender as the need arises. It also will come with print capability, and therefore the patient result report can be printed out, as well as you can see cumulative result reports if the patient has been in the laboratory multiple times and will be able to access the patient's past results. The final result automation will provide the relevant authorized personnel to perform second-level result validation. So you can see that the validation will not only cover a single personnel performing the test, but also a second one that validates the run and also assures the accuracy and reliability of the lab result. There's also a capability of patient panic result reporting, as well as the phone-in results and also follow-up action on the requested phone results. So what we do in our hospital for this particular one is that we make a list of analytes that will be reported as panic value so that the clinician or the requesting party will be able to get the results right away, and therefore will be able to institute management as needed. So this will be decided upon by the different departments as to what analytes they need to have panic result reporting, and the panic result levels had to be decided by both parties. So for example, for glucose, the panic result will be any number below 60, and therefore, if you get a glucose result of below 60, the report has to be reported right away to the requesting party, and therefore institution of management will be done right away. So this is how the panic result reporting will be used and also provided by the laboratory information system as needed in the hospital. So in short, it will allow effective and efficient and immediate management of the patient's problem, and therefore the patient's analyte can be corrected. So this is another window that comes out as you phone in or maybe call the station or the nurse station reporting the panic value, and therefore you get the one receiving the result and also the time and also the date that the result was relayed. And therefore, it will be all recorded in the laboratory information system or the LIS. So archiving of the specimen is also one capability of the system. As you keep your specimens after running them, you can just put them in tubes, in test tube racks, and also in freezers or refrigerators. And each of these tubes and racks and refrigerators has to be labeled, and therefore will be monitored by the system, and therefore searching for the sample to be utilized in another test would be easy. So for example, you have a sample 2 days ago and you have to run another test for that particular sample. The system will tell you where the tube is, and therefore you can look for it right away. So it makes the looking for old samples, maybe past samples, easier. So the windows will allow us to know which refrigerator the sample is in, at which number of test tube rack, and also at which position in the test tube rack that will the tube be as you need it. Another thing that LIS will be able to perform is the quality control management. As we all know, all laboratory tests has to be performed with control runs prior to testing patient sample. So this particular capability will cover or support numerical and textual QC results. It offers rules and check is what procedure. It supports multi-level assay QC data and Levy-Jennings graphs for easier QC reviewing and monitoring. So you can keep all the data of the QC runs on a daily basis, or depending on the test menu that you have. The Levy-Jennings graphs check also to monitor. There's also option to add free text comments or corrective actions to each QC point, especially if the QC run for the day went out of control, and therefore corrective measures has to be instituted, and therefore you will be able to know and also perform corrective measures and keep them in record. That for that particular day, you have the QC run that went out of control, and therefore you also have corrected that particular error, and therefore those steps are kept in the system. It also offers calculated mean, the standard deviation, and also the coefficient of variation statistics. It also offers calculated sigma value using Six Sigma methodologies, which help you to determine the appropriate QC rules to be applied for each test. As we go through Six Sigma methodologies, and also if you are familiar with this methodology, you'll be able to know which of the QC rule has to be applied on a particular analyte, as not all analytes can have all the Six Sigma rules applicable. So these are the windows of how the graphs look like. So these are your Levy-Jennings graphs below. So there are 3 analytes here that you can see, one in blue, one in green, and one in red. And therefore, all the results on the daily runs will be able to be visualized by the one performing the test or monitoring the test, or whoever is assigned to do the test for that particular day. So the moving averages will also be available as part of the monitoring. And you can see here that without moving averages, and you will be unable to detect QC errors within QC check. So if ever an error has to be identified or is identified later on, the sample has to be rerun, and you have to re-report all the results in the correct manner. And with moving averages, you will be able to monitor on a daily basis how every sample can become a QC check. And therefore, the trending results that immediately identify QC failure will be available to the user. And you can see that for this particular example, if it is not available, it's difficult for you to detect an error on a daily basis. So what you see here will be those Levy-Jennings graphs that I have shown in a few slides back. And therefore, you can see that there are trending in some of the squares. You can see on the second frame and also the third frame, there are red dots that came out, and therefore those are trending. So it's either going low or below the standard deviation, or it's going up the standard deviation. So for among these 12 boxes here, the 12 graphs here, so only 3 of these graphs will show some moving averages movement that will allow you to detect error earlier. You don't have to wait for the end of the month or maybe end of the half a month to be able to monitor that error has occurred. And therefore, corrective measures can be instituted right away. So the rejection of the QC run, so the Westgard rule, wherein you have to reject and 7 control measurement strength in the same direction, whether it goes higher than the standard deviation or lower, and also crossing the mean will also be monitored by this particular capability of the LIS. So the Westgard rule can be applied depending on the hospital or the laboratory performing the test, and therefore they can choose which of the rules to be applied for most of their analytes. And one of the rules that has been lately been available to us is these 7 measurements going one direction as a trend, either higher or lower than the mean. And therefore, once you will be able to observe this, you have to institute corrective action, that your control runs are moving down or moving up, and therefore some adjustments has to be done. And the availability of moving averages will allow you to detect this as early as possible. So these are the windows that come out. So you can see on the left window, you can see that the trend is going down. And on the right part, you can see that the trend is going up, as seen in the boxes below, no, that has been emphasized in this particular slide. So you can also have instrument monitoring. As you can see here, the instrument that you have utilized for your particular test can also be monitored by the LIS. So you can see that this particular graph will show that the day run will be around 170 something, and how many of those 170 runs will be repeated. So you can see the reruns in red and the first runs in blue. So you can see the monitoring of the instrument runs can be done by the LIS as well, and therefore you'll be able to predict the utilization of reagents, predict the kits, and also be able to predict that you are performing well or not based on the reruns that the instrument will perform as part of the corrective measure available, provided to us by the LIS. Another thing that the system can do is to inventory your reagents. No? As we all know, this is one of the usual problems that the laboratory can have, as you will stop operation if the test reagent is not available, and therefore you will have that particular test not available to patients, and therefore it will be quite a problematic situation to most clinicians. So the reagent inventory management programs are used to help users to access and maintain the inventory of reagent products in the laboratory, product data maintenance. So there's reagent stock transaction entry, reagent stock inquiry, and also automatic calculation of reagent consumption. This will also monitor if your laboratory is charging your patients per test. You will also monitor consumption of the reagents and also the number of tests that has been performed, and also the number of or amount of money that has to be generated by the lab. So all of this will help you complete those processes. So the rule-based result query will also be available as part of the LIS. So you can see that for this particular example, we have identified hemoglobin level and requested for a query that will show us all hemoglobin levels above 12. So you can see that all the hemoglobin levels here will be above 12, and these are the patients with hemoglobin levels above 12. You can also make use of the age, maybe, if you want to have all the results of patients age 40 and up, you can also do that. And you can use any other parameter that you want to look for or to search for, wherein you will have to apply what rule you want to cover. So for this particular example, we have utilized hemoglobin levels. So there's also security in the LIS, and you can see that we will be able to show the analyzer ID, which produce the results. we'll also be able to show the original result value and the amended value, if it's amended or not. You'll also be able to record who, when, and what actions have been performed, and also the ability to review all the actions that have been performed. So if I am the lab director or the head of the laboratory, I'll be able to check on what, who, and when all those results have been generated, or the results have been altered or changed at what, who, and when as well. So the database table audit trail will show all these items now. So you can have the test item or the analyte itself. We can also monitor for delta check, wherein you will be able to trace the past results of the patients who have subjected to the same laboratory tests in maybe months or years before. We will also be able to identify which workstation has performed the test, what analyzer has been utilized, what test group will the test belong to? Is it group of chemistry? Is it serology? Or is it blood banking? You'll also have the test values monitored, source details, clinician details. You'll be able to quality control, system policies, if there are any, user groups or user profiles. There's also the LIS or HC Lab rule engine, wherein you can have decision support system. So this one can configure business rules for a customer that cannot be configured, wherein they will be identified as exceptions using standard database table settings. So these are needed processes that are not normally provided by the service providers, but can be identified as exceptions, and therefore this system can be supported by the LIS. So this will also allow management of the workflow in the laboratory. You can also have encode expert know-how, and also the base rules on numerous data points, including test results, instrument flags, delta violations, if there are any, the wards or clinics sending the requests, the doctors, and also the patient data, including patient clinical info, and also patient gender, and also the patient age. Another thing that you can configure or put into the LIS is computation of some of the results. So majority of the laboratories now, when they report creatinine levels in serum, they will also incorporate an estimation of the GFR, or the glomerular filtration rate. And this is the formula that is utilized by most labs to compute for that. And since this can be put into the LIS, and you can just have automatic computation of this particular parameter based on the creatinine level of the patient. So this is an added feature, and you can have special condition formula incorporated in the lab report. During the COVID-19 pandemic, another thing that we have utilized the LIS for is for comments or maybe remarks, that has to be added into the report if the patient turns out to be positive for COVID or negative for COVID. So the remarks can include the test procedure or the test methodology that we have utilized. So what it is and what are the different genes that has been detected in the COVID-19 positive results. We also will be able to some sort of make comments on the interpretation, and also put in the disclaimer that not all positive results will really be 100% positive, as well as not all negative results will be 100% negative. So remarks similar to that can always be incorporated in the report based on how you want it to come out as the patient or the doctor will see it. So this is one thing that we have done during the COVID-19 pandemic. So some added features for HC Lab. So you can have a customizable dashboard like this one. This is how we designed ours, but you can design something for yourself as you want it. So you can see that we have new samples, pending samples, samples for validation, official results that have been released, and the total samples received for that particular hour. So these are the averages of the turnaround time can also be reported, and also the standard deviation that has been utilized that can also be put into the this dashboard. So you can see that anything that you need, that the data that you need to be seen right away can place the dashboard. And usually this comes up in a big TV screen in the lab and everyone can see it. So you can have this as part of that laboratory information system. So in addition to what I discussed, wherein you can see that CBC or the hematology reports and some other chemistry or serology reports incorporated into the LIS, we can also have reports from microbiology laboratory. So this will cover the identity of the organism that we have isolated, as well as maybe the sensitivity pattern of these microorganisms to antibiotics. For the anatomic pathology part, the reports of biopsies and also some radical surgery histopathology reports can be incorporated here. And access to this, again, as I said, can be classified. You can just access maybe all the colon specimens, or maybe you want to access all the uterus specimens. All these capabilities are available in the LIS. For the blood bank, which will be discussed more extensively in the succeeding slides, we'll be presenting them as they come out. So in the Philippines, the blood and the blood components are governed by the National Blood Services Act of 1994. And since 1997, we already have stopped the paid donor system. So all the donors are volunteers as classified, and they are non-remunerated, or they could be relatives of the patients, or they are donors brought by the patients to replace the blood units that they have used. So we have non-remunerated volunteers or replacement donors. So the mission of this particular practice is to promote blood safety, the adequacy of blood supply, rational blood use, meaning to say that we don't just use blood when it's not needed, and also the efficiency of blood services. So the appropriate use of blood, as reported in many hospitals in the Philippines, so like, for example, this report in 2015, still needs room for improvement. So you can see here that still the whole blood is utilized by most hospitals, and also the appropriateness of the use of the blood products will be as high as 75% and could be as low as 42% in this particular study. So the satisfaction rating is not really that high, but then of course we are happy with what happened since 1994, that this already came out like this, and we are improving as blood utilization will be concerned. So what about the LIS, for the blood bank itself, and also the utility of the blood bank LIS? So this is a flexible tool for blood bank data management, enabling a complete computerization of all their activities, including the suppliers and the patients, and allowing users an easy blood product control. So we cover this, the key benefits. Of course, it's electronic, it's fast and accurate. It is intuitive and user-friendly. So it's point-and-click access to all options. It's highly flexible because you can configure anything that you want, no? So if you want all frozen plasmas, maybe the data of all these components, or maybe all packed red cells, you can just access that, using the LIS. So there's also comprehensive blood bank management system. There's also full traceability of blood transfusion requests as it comes in from the different nurse stations or maybe parts of the hospital. And also there's management reporting functionality. So the LIS for the blood bank starts with donor recruitment or donor processing. You can have storage of the blood in the fridge and also in the freezer, and also the release of these blood components for transfusion. From the donor management, you will be able to register donors in the system and have them processed, have them screened, and also have them bled. And you can print out blood bag labels containing the donor data and also serial numbers as you need it in the system, and also the storage into the fridge of these particular blood units, and also the release of these blood units to patients as they need it. So this will be all covered by the blood bank workflow. So the donor management starts with registration. There's blood group result entry. So you classify the blood bags based on the blood group. There's also the approval of the screening test results, which screens for the infectious diseases. I think most or maybe all countries with blood bank will be testing hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV as part of the screening test. The pack details entry, so what you put in the label. So usually these will come out as barcodes, as numbers, and will be able to be traced from where it came from and what's the source of that blood bag, because of all those data available on the label. And you can also have management reports from those data that have been recovered and available in the LMS. So in this graph or diagram, you can see that there are green boxes that's supposed to be covered by the LIS, and only the yellow boxes have to be done manually. So from the donor recruitment management, you just have to do physical exam as a manual step. The performance of the CBC or hemoglobin level can also be automated in some laboratories or blood bank in the country, but of course, some of them still do it manually. And the rest can also be done under the LIS. You can have blood collection manually because the automation for this particular process is not possible. And therefore, you can have also recording of the deferred donors, the donors who failed the screening and therefore was not able to donate, and the specimen check-in of the donor who passed the screening test done on this particular blood sample, the blood grouping, and also the approved screening results will be available in the LIS. So the blood component visual check has to be done manually, but of course the acceptance of the blood product into the inventory can be done using the LIS. So the processing of blood into components will be done manually, but as soon as they become components like packed red cells, fresh frozen plasma, or platelet concentrate, it will now be part of the inventory of the blood bank, and therefore the LIS can always manage those blood banks. So for donor registration, there's also additional capability of alerting the donor when it's time to donate again, so that's possible. You can also track user when the donor has the record of a positive or reactive screening test results. It will also show blood bag donation history, support autologous type of donation. The patient himself will donate for himself as the need arises. Automatic generation of lab order for pack screening. Blood bank and tubes barcode can be created for immediate labeling. So the tubes will be used for screening for infectious diseases or for blood grouping. And the blood bank barcode will be attached to the blood bag that contains the donor's blood. And of course, you can also generate donor card if your system or your practice in your hospital or laboratory will allow this, that donors get a donor card, and therefore you can also do that, the printing of these donor cards. So for the blood grouping results, you can classify your blood bags into different blood types, and you can always have the count of the different blood types in the inventory. So this will alert the user when the current blood group is different from the previous. That's also part of what we can do, not only the monitoring of the number of bags, but also the same name with different blood types can also be checked. And therefore, you have to check or recheck the identity of the donor, if this is the same person or not, or maybe they are just persons with the same names. So there's also the approved screening test results for accepting the inventory. So you monitor for the infectious disease screening. Are all the screening tests okay or not? And therefore you can check the blood bag into the inventory of the blood bag. So you have to verify pack details like your expiry date of the bag, the volume it contains, the unit, the comment before accepting into the inventory. You can support undo accepted blood bag. Maybe you commit a mistake of accepting a blood bag, but you want to remove it, and you can undo that, or you can also support rejection of the blood bag. So these are the labels. You can see that there are barcodes that identify the blood type, the date of the expiration of the bag, and also the classification of the donor, as well as the number or the unit number of that particular blood bank, based on what the blood bank is using, or maybe the whole country is using. Some countries would have a universal blood unit numbering, and therefore that will be available in the system as well. So the donor management reports covers the donor listing. So, for example, you have activities outside the hospital, and you have to go to a place where you will see donors, and you can get blood from these donors, and you can have the donor listing as they are submitted to you by the parties involved. So you can have donor summary report, you can have donor screening summary, donor rejection summary, and donation versus blood usage summary. It's part of the blood bank. And the windows will come out like this. So this is donor listing. So you can see the date and also the expected number of the donors that come in for the day. So you can see the selection criteria. You can have donor summary as you finish the processes for the day. How many type A's were you able to get? How many type B of the blood bags were you able to get? So all these summaries can come out in the windows. You can have donor screening summary as well. So are all of these donors past the screening, or there could be some samples that have been reactive to some infectious disease that have been screened. The next one will be the inventory or the pack registration. So we have the contents of the fridge or the refrigerator in the blood bank. So you have pack registration, pack transfer, if the unit has been transferred from one place to another. Has it been returned from another area of the hospital to the blood bank? Has been discarded because it's expired, or there's damage to the bag? So there's pack issue as well. When was the pack issued? The using party or the party is going to use the blood for transfusion. So is the product has been converted from one type of blood component to another? So for example, from fresh frozen plasma to cryoprecipitate, or from platelet-rich plasma to platelet concentrate, or are these bags returned to the supplier? So these are all monitored by the LIS. The inquiry will also give us the real-time blood stock summary. So typically we do this in the morning. As we start the day, we have to know how many of blood units are available for patients based on blood types, and also how many of the blood product inquiry will also be done as the need arises. So we receive reports or requests from the different units of the hospital. Therefore, we will know that whether we will have enough or whether they don't know. So for the other things that the LIS can do, so again, the green boxes will be covered by the LIS, and you can see that you can quarantine your blood for screening. So that's one, as soon as you get them from the donors, or maybe you have an outside blood activity and all the blood bags will be brought to the hospital. So it's pretty for these blood bags if you screen them for infectious diseases. You perform the screening test, then you register the blood when they pass the screening test, or you could run barcode or return those blood or reject blood when the infectious disease screening turns out to be positive. So again, the green boxes can be done by the LIS. The yellow boxes should be done manually. So there's also support of single or batch pack registration for productivity. So we can also do that in the system. So you also support import blood product data file from external. So once in a while, you get to have lack of a particular blood type in your blood bank, and you have to ask for outside help. And you will be able to source this from the Red Cross maybe, or from the blood center, and therefore you have to be able to register these bags as they arrive into your facility. So this is how it's done. So you can just check it in, and the system will know that it's coming from outside, since you don't have all the other data pertaining to that particular bag that you have already registered into the LIS. So you will know that it's an outside blood unit. So again, this is the capability that the LIS can provide you. And of course, the screens will come out like this as you input all the data pertaining to that particular blood bag or blood unit. So you can also issue blood bags as an emergency. So again, the classification of these emergency issue ones can also be recorded into the system, so that we will know how many bags have been issued as an emergency basis, or how many of these bags have been issued on a regular process. So there's also issuance of these blood bags to external locations, especially if another hospital or lab or facility will need blood units coming from you. You can also get them and put them into the system, and you'll be able to monitor how many bags has been given to another institution in a particular number of days, so maybe per month or per week. There's also recording of the patient of the blood bag has been returned when it's not used. For example, the patient expired, maybe the blood bag is damaged, and therefore it has to be returned to the blood bank, and therefore you can always check it in back, and the system will be able to monitor how many of these bags have been returned based on the reasons that we have presented. So you can also have recording of the return of blood units from external source, as you'll be able to identify any problem that will arise from screening, maybe, or maybe from the inspection of the blood unit itself, or maybe on how the blood looks like physically. So all these things are reasons for rejecting some of the blood units that come in from outside sources. So there's also a record of the movement of the blood product within a location, like for example, from one patient or nurse's station to another nurse's station as the patient is transferred from one area to another area of the hospital. So maybe, for example, from the patient's room to the operating room, or from the patient's room to an ICU, and therefore all this has to be recorded into the system so that you'll know where the blood bank went. So if it's given or transfused in the patient's room, or if the patient is transferred to the ICU, for example, the transfusion has been performed or done in the ICU. All this has to be part of the inventory system and also the monitoring system, and this can be recorded in the LS. So if you have discarded a bag or a blood unit because it's damaged, you also have to record this, and also you can have this as part of the monitoring of blood utilization within the system, and therefore everything can be checked at the end of the month, maybe, or maybe it depends on how often you have to summarize all these different parameters that the blood bank has went through, and therefore you'll be able to sort of monitor how many bags has expired for the month, how many bags has been discarded for the month, how many bags has been damaged for the month. So all this will be available in the LIS, and will make your job easier. So another thing that can be monitored by the LIS in the blood bank is conversion of the blood product into maybe 2 more bags. So for example, in infants, when they require transfusion, they don't need much, or they need small volumes of blood. So 1 unit of blood can be divided into 2, 3, or 4 smaller bags, and therefore each big unit of blood can be given to 4 babies, for example, and all of this can be recorded as part of the monitoring of blood utilization that the LIS can handle. So if you return your blood bag to a supplier like the Red Cross or another hospital, again, as I had mentioned earlier, that process can be recorded in the LIS, and therefore at the end of the month, you'll be able to monitor how many of these have suffered at the same fate, that they have been returned to where they came from, and you can always input the reason as to why those blood bags. So there's inquiry of the current stock balance. So this is essential, especially for busy hospitals, that a real-time inquiry of the blood products available. As the estimate hospital, they need to know the real-time number of the blood. This is for Greek hospitals. So you'd also be an alert for staff levels, for staff safety level, that you'll be able to source, maybe ask for help here, that you're already running out of a certain blood type, and therefore you can always get from outside sources. So there could be also provision of multiple search criteria for blood products. So you can show blood product current status and transaction details, because as we said, there's always the real-time monitoring, and therefore you will know as to which bag or what bag will be available in the fridge, and also which ones can be given to a patient and what are the blood types available that can be used by the patients in the hospital. So another thing that the HC lab can do, the LIS can do, is to have the product listing, as we had mentioned, the product transaction, the stock summary, the usage summary, and also the usage details, as it can tell you the patient who used it, how much has been used by the patient, or what's the volume of the blood unit utilized by the patient, what's the blood type, how long has the transfusion process been, so is it consumed in a matter of hours or maybe longer. So if you have near expiry blood products and also expired blood products as part of the monitoring. So these are all available in the inventory reports that the LIS can provide. So you can see that we have at least displayed the list. We have fresh frozen plasma, we have packed RBCs, and also whole blood as part of the monitoring and the source of or the supply of those bags that we have utilized. So all of this can be inputted into the system and also accessed as you need it, and also come up in a monthly report as you need it. So this is your blood product transaction. This is your blood stock summary report. This is your blood product usage summary. So you can see that precipitate is also mentioned here. Leukocyte poor red blood cells. You can have platelet concentrate. You can have washed red blood cells as part of the blood product available in the blood bank. Also, the usage and also the expiry will be monitored in this particular system. And you can see that the near expiring blood has to be offered right away for use and may be offered to other hospitals as well so that it will not go into waste. And the expired blood products have to be monitored as part of the wastage and therefore as part of the financial report that the blood bank typically will have to report to the management. So the blood transfusion feature overview, we have your blood product request to start with. Then you have your blood transfusion result entry, whether it's compatible and incompatible, cross-match dispense blood product, then blood transfusion report and blood transfusion request inquiry. So these are the features of the LIS for the blood bank. As I had mentioned at the start of my presentation, we'll be discussing this part in more detail. So in addition to what we have already presented, you can see here that some added procedures can be also incorporated into the HC lab or the LIS or the blood bank LIS. So you can see that the order will not be just a simple blood order inquiry or maybe blood transfusion request. You can also have antibody screen, antibody identification as part of the workup of the patient and the donor. And also all these data can also be incorporated into the system. And therefore, once you click those particular units or patients, this data will be available. So you can see the result of the antibody screen, the antibody ID, the cross-matching, and also how they come out, and whether the blood bank was able to look for a compatible donor or not, and therefore whether transfusion was proceeded or not, will also be reported in the system. So the quantity of the blood bank requests can also be monitored, as some patients will use more blood units and others will just use less. Therefore, it will also alert the user when the quantity currently not enough in the inventory, and also monitor outstanding blood products owing to the patient. So if the patient, for example, for 4 units of blood and you were only able to give 2 units at a time, and therefore the outstanding 2 units will still be in the system, and you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to know that you will still have pending requests, for some of the patients. So there's also automatic blood group result based on anti-A, anti-B, and anti-B results. So classifying the patient to type A, type B, type AB, or type O, Rh positive or Rh negative. So automatic antibody screening result based on its test method. So we also are able to do this in the system in addition to what we already have done earlier. So the reservation of the blood, assigning a blood product for a particular patient can be accomplished in the system as well. You can also record the cross-match results. You can also support emergency cross-match and also auto-generation of packing lists and blood record and the issuance of the blood products as the need arises. So for transfusion reaction report for dispensed blood product, it can also be incorporated into the system as the using unit will provide information to the blood bank that they have observed a transfusion reaction. They have to keep the blood bag and return the blood bag to the blood bank, and therefore an investigation could be done, or maybe a review of the procedures or tests performed on that particular bag, and then the patient's blood sample can also be repeated and to check for any cause or the reason for the blood transfusion reaction. So there's also multiple search criteria similar to the other systems that we had presented earlier. You can also present the current status of the blood transfusion request and also the view and the details of the blood transfusion request. So again, these are all the processes, capabilities that are available in the LIS. So this is your management report. And you can see the workload summary reports. So how many of this blood bag had been utilized or maybe performed or given to another blood unit. So these are all the things that can be summarized in the system. So you can have how many blood bag has been issued to the surgical ward or the labor room or maybe the medical ward, and so on and so forth. So the workload summary, how many have been performed by one performing medical technologist, how many have been performed in the morning shift, how many have been performed in the afternoon shift or the night shift, and how many of these procedures will cover ADO typing, RH typing, antibody screen, or antibody ID or cross-matching. So one last thing about LIS is auto-validation. So this is a rule-based system for validation of lab test results based on laboratory requirements set up to automate validation of the results and automatically releases the test results without any manual intervention or additional effort from laboratory staff if those results meet the criteria of all defined rules. So what this requires is the setting up of those criteria and also the defined rules. So this will take time most of the time, but then once you finish this, it will be a great help in your lab as you need not validate maybe a fourth of the samples that you receive, or maybe around 25%. Because our hospital is a hospital for the sick, and therefore we cannot just make do of a higher percentage of auto-validation because we have to review most of the results that come out of the system. But then the help that LIS provides for auto-validation will be really big as we have a big number of samples that we handle each day. So if you are maybe a laboratory that caters to annual physical exams of employees, for example, therefore auto-validation will also be a great help as majority of these patients are normal, and therefore the auto-validation will make everything fast. But for hospitals entertaining sick patients, auto-validation will be a great help as it eliminates attending to these normal results when your attention has to be given more to those who are sick. So this is auto-validation as we have used it. So our hospital has been using this system since 2019. This is a powerful tool for the batch processing of test results. So you can see that the advantages will reduce reporting errors as you already have set the rules prior to allowing the results to be auto-validated, and therefore those rules has to be satisfied before you implement this particular practice. So it shortens the turnaround time and also improve the audit efficiency. As you can see that all you have to maybe review will be less in number, and therefore the auto-validated results can just be released into the system, and the requesting party can see them right away. So the results has to be within the normal range as part of the requirement. The previous result of that patient, if there is, should also be within the normal range. You also check if there will be assigned or authorized runner medical technologist, as some of the tests requires expertise and skill to be able to perform that particular test. You check if there are no immature cells from previous CBC results if the CBC is requested. You also check if there is no flagging in the machine, as some machines will flag abnormalities as they detect it based on the capabilities of these instruments. And also check if there is no peripheral blood smear request, because if there is, you have to review this smear first before you auto-validate something. So in short, we don't auto-validate a sample for CBC if there is a request for examination of the peripheral blood smear. You also check if there is no machine flagging from previous CBC results. So you check your previous CBC result of that patient. Also, this is part of the Delta check. And of course, there is no Delta check issues that you have identified. So when these criteria have been satisfied, therefore we allow auto-validation. And as we have practiced this in the past, so we can see that we have to cover all the parameters in the CBC, as an example here. So we have to cover hemoglobin, the basophils, hematocrit, and all the parameters available in a complete blood count report is mentioned, and we have to place a cutoff. So for example, for neutrophil, the result within normal range and previous neutrophil result should be less than 80. So that will be one of the parameters that this process should satisfy before the results can be auto-validated. So it takes time for you to set this up. But again, as I said, once you have set this up, auto-validation is a great help for most laboratories performing routine procedures. So auto-validation can be applied for blood chemistries. You also can apply this for complete blood count, some for urinalysis as well, and also for some serologic tests. So you can see the parameters have been emphasized in these particular red squares. And you can see that the initial steps for validation will require at least 100 samples. There's also parallel run in hematology analyzer A and B and machine at the emergency room. So you have to completely synchronize or have all your instruments with agreeable result. It does not have to be 100% the same, but then the level of agreement should be high. So there should be at least or maybe less than 5% difference between the results of analyzer A and analyzer B, and also that instrument that will be in the emergency room. So this is just an example. Of course, other hospitals maybe will have more, maybe they will have instruments in the operating room or maybe in the ICU, and therefore all those instruments has to be sort of consolidated and will have agreeable results as they run samples through them. So the applied rules set by hematology. So we have mentioned some of the rules that we have done for hematology. Verify the results based on the rules set in the LIS and check if all instruments are integrated. Of course, if it's normal, you auto-release. If it's abnormal, you block it and also do some reflex testing or review some of the past results. So for the current flow process from specimen check-in the HC lab, so the medtech will check in the specimen and register the runner by scanning the barcode, then run the barcode itself in the instrument, and you come out with the result. So if all the parameters that we have set for auto-validation is satisfied, so the result will be transmitted to HC lab or LIS system. And therefore, if it's normal, including the previews, no immature cells, no peripheral smear requests, no machine flagging, and no Delta check issues, it will be automatically verified and authorized, and therefore released right away into the system, and the requesting party can view them right away. So this will be part of the workflow or the current flow process for auto-validation. So since we have implemented this in 2019, you can see that among the number of tests that we run on a yearly basis, maybe for example, for in 2019, there's around 170,000, and you can see that auto-verified will come out to 42,000 of these samples and have an auto-val percentage of only 24.67%. Still, the number is quite big. Now, as you convert them into total number of tests based on a performing laboratory that will be processing around 170,000 samples a year. So you can see that even if the percentage is quite low, if you translate it into actual numbers, the number is quite significant. And it's really a great help now for laboratories or hospitals like us to have auto-validation set, and therefore will not be bothered with reviewing all these samples now, which has been auto-validated. Of course, we also apply this in chemistries, but then for an example for this presentation, we just use hematology here. So summary and future potential. So LIS improved laboratory efficiency, as you have seen in many of the slides that I have presented. There's also cost efficiency in the long run. There's long-term benefits through automation, reduced manual labor, and optimized resource utilization. And as we all know, we have been having shortage of personnel for working in the laboratory, as many developed countries are hiring this personnel from us. No? So we have been sort of shifting our attention to automation, and therefore this is one of big help that we have been looking into that will use less personnel and produce more results. So the future laboratory information system is likely to involve advancements and innovations that align with broader trends in healthcare, technology, and data management, which could benefit healthcare management, example, integration with AI or artificial intelligence, maybe remote access, and also interoperability that will be instituted in the future. So with this, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to present this. And also, I would like to thank everyone who attended this session. And also, thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Rodelio for the interesting presentation. And now we will continue to the question and answer session. And I will invite the active participation, and we will give Sysmex exclusive book for 5 best questions. Okay, please state your name and your institution and for whom the question to be delivered. Okay, I think I would like to have 3 questions first. Maybe the participant can raise hand.
I think they have to write down.
Okay. I will read the question. Okay, in bahasa. Kita ketahui aplikasi SIM atau Sistem Informasi Rumah Sakit di Indonesia berjalan menuju satu aplikasi Satu Sehat. Sedangkan aplikasi LIS saat ini sangat banyak dan beragam, yang di dalam satu rumah sakit bisa berganti aplikasi LIS berkali-kali tergantung pada vendor di rumah sakit tersebut. Bagaimana pandangan narasumber apabila LIS di Indonesia diarahkan pada satu aplikasi yang dibuat atau diverifikasi oleh Kemenkes RI dan PDS Patlim? Mungkin ini untuk Prof. Ida. Silakan, Prof.
Ya, pertanyaannya bagus ya. Ya itu tadi ya. Jadi ketika kita mau membuat transformasi digital di laboratorium, itu masalahnya tuh ganti-ganti vendor ya, kemudian sistemnya yang beda-beda. Tapi memang usulan yang baik sekali ya, bahwa itu memang harus diverifikasi oleh kita yang tahu persis kebutuhan laboratorium ya, dan nanti kemudian arah atau disetujui juga oleh Kemkes ya. Ya kita harus menetapkan standar, berarti kalau seperti ini ya, apa yang kita minta. Tentu kan mereka walaupun bermacam-macam pasti punya generic system di dalamnya ya. Nah, kita harus membangun generic system yang kita akan inginkan itu seperti apa. Nantinya mungkin akan seperti itulah gitu ya. Itu jawaban dari saya. Mungkin Dr. Rodelio akan menambahkan. Dilanjutkan sama Prof. Dewi ke Dr. Rodelio
Okay.
barangkali Prof.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Rodelio, it is one question from our participant. In Indonesia, we have such as information system in our government, Satu Sehat. So maybe we can transfer your information system in Philippines. Is there a laboratory information system or information system from the hospital connect to the government information system in Philippines?
Right now, there is none. So our hospital information system is exclusive for the hospital, and the LIS is connected to the hospital information system. So this is how we do it, no? So when we communicate with outside sources, we typically will use still the telephone, the email, or the text messaging. So we don't have any LIS connected to outside of the hospital at the moment.
So how can the government of Philippines government can get the data from the hospital? So they have to ask the hospital, I think.
So for example, for the blood bank, since there is a Philippine Blood Center that is operating in the Philippines, all the blood bank in the Philippines are required to submit their census on a daily basis. So they will know as to where the blood will be available and which hospital will have this. And therefore, there's this submission of census required from all hospitals submitted to the Philippine Blood Center. So this is how it's done now. Although the system is not that efficient as far as providing blood will be concerned, but still it helps a lot, no? That the Philippine Blood Center knows that some blood units are available from this center and the other blood units are available from the other centers. So this is still a great help, although the efficiency is not that high yet, but then we're going to that direction, hopefully.
Yeah, because our government, need to have a database for the population in Indonesia to maybe for prevention for some disease or something.
Yeah, one national database, Prof.
Yeah, yes, Prof.
I think it will be the same for us, but we have not really reached that far.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rodelio. So we
Thank
next
you.
for the second question. I think this question delivered to Mr. Rodelio from Dr. Diana at Siloam Hospital, Surabaya. Can laboratory information system accommodate if someone have history such as transfusion reaction or ETA-induced thrombocytopenia or the others history of patient? So when we do the phlebotomy, we know what to do or do simple precaution for this patient. Okay, Mr. Rodelio.
Yes. So far as the LIS is concerned, whatever is done to the blood sample, any clinical data available for the donor or for the patient are incorporated in the patient record. If the patient is admitted to the hospital, therefore there will be another record that you can access, which is called the electronic medical record. Therefore, we will also get data from that record. But then again, if it is just simple blood donation and it's only the donor that we are talking about, all the data or information that we need will be in the LIS. So we have performed tests for maybe antibody screen, antibody ID, cross-matching, any incompatibilities and any transfusion reaction can be all inputted into the LIS.
Okay. So I have one question to Mr. Rodelio while waiting for the other question from the participant. Okay. I will read the other question from Fahmi. based on your experience, what are the challenges in transition from the manual to digital LIS? Is there any issue in the preparation or training of the lab staffs? I think this is a question for Mr. Rodilio.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that question. So far, based on our experience, we have to undergo training for all the lab personnel for this. The installation of the LS is also monitored by our staff, as there are some customization that is needed that is applicable specifically to the hospital. So the time it takes can be long sometimes. Sometimes it can be easier because the LIS is already ready to have the particular measure available. But once in a while, the measures are not available, so therefore customization is essential. So the time it takes can vary depending on the demand of the laboratory. So depending on what you need. So sometimes it will be easy if it's already ready from the service provider. If it's not, then customization of what you want can take time. So it depends, no? So it varies. While the majority of the measures are available, but then once in a while we do get some measures that are needed that are not available. Therefore, it will take time for them to design it for us and also to customize that particular measure for us. So this will be a variable time element, no, for all the parameters that you need.
Okay. One question
There is
from me. Is there any question?
additional question.
Okay. Wait.
From Undip Okta, please.
Okay. From Ifah, from Undip, since all LIS software is not created equally, what should pathology labs ask when evaluating LIS software? Thank you.
So maybe the best answer to this is maybe you have to know what you want and what you need in your lab. So based on that, they will initially present to us what they are capable of. And those capabilities are already presented in detail. And we will know whether we need those details or not. If not, then we will just make use of maybe some form of customization, as I mentioned earlier, with what we need. So for example, we need patient data covering the patient number, patient name, patient identification, gender, patient birthday, and maybe an additional another requirement, maybe name of the mother, for example. And since the name of the mother is not a regular item in the agenda, they have to add that as a customizable measure. So these are all depending on the lab, on what you want and what you need, and therefore what will help you. So another example is for hematology. If we want to cover all the parameters like the mean cell hemoglobin, mean cell hemoglobin concentration, and also mean cell volume, they have to add that to the parameter that we want to measure. So all the specific added feature has to be customized for us, if not available on the ready platform. Because initially, when you acquire the LIS, it's some sort of a plug and play gadget or instrument. But then, of course, eventually, as you go along, you will find that there are things that you will need specifically for your laboratory, and therefore you have to customize all those additional features. So initially, it will perform what you need, then you add up to what you need specifically as you go along. So for us, it also took time. It's not easy, so we didn't finish it in a year. It was more than a year before we have finished everything because of the customization that we required.
So that's why I will ask you about your experience. How long, if you need to customize some data or something that they can provide it for you? How long? If it's time?
The time element will vary, will also vary. It depends on how difficult it is. Although, for example, in histopathology, so which is one section that we had much or many customization. So we want to be able to access diagnosis of samples maybe from the colon. So they have to be able to feature that we can just type in the word colon and all the colon samples come out. So these are customizations. So it can take maybe a month for them to customize that. And of course, if you want to access records on all maybe breast biopsies, therefore they have to also do customization for us to be able to access those essential.
Okay. Yes,
Unmute.
Prof. Ida.
Ini di mute nih, Prof.
Ya,
Delia.
Pak Prof. Ida ya.
Hmm?
Okay. Based on your experience, is there any adding charge for the new customization from them? If you need some,
Yes, there is.
Yes.
There is. So there are fees that you have to pay, for the additional customization. But then, of course, it's part of the budget. So you have to make sure that your hospital will have budget for the LIS, because in the long run, the benefits that you get from LIS will be far more than what you spend for it.
Yeah.
So it will really be a great help. So you need less personnel, you need less running, and of course the access of records will be easier. So if you need results from previous months or previous years, it will be readily available. You don't have to dig into your log books or maybe file of papers to do that. All you have to do is to key in a keyword, and therefore the information will come out. So it's easier. So it's much, much easier.
yeah, but we have to make the best system for that. And
Yes,
that
definitely.
time and finance for that. Okay.
Yes, you have to choose well. You have to choose well, because
Yes.
we have had that experience, and we also met with other vendors, and therefore we have to choose what is the best for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
We
can I
will
can I
next to the
ask,
other question. Yeah.
can I ask something to Dr. Rodelio?
Yes,
Dr.
yes,
Rodelio,
yes.
is there any standard for LIS system for the vendor in the world? Is there any standardized? They have to meet that standard?
I think the best answer to that is that they should be able to connect all your instruments into the system. I think that's one basic requirement, because if not, the system will be useless, for us in the laboratory.
Yeah, that's right.
Another thing is that they should be able to accommodate all the lab personnel so that they can log in, use the system, and perform the task assigned to them. I think that is very important. All the instruments and all the lab personnel, including pathologists, should be able to log in and should be accommodated into the system. So there should be no limit in the number of personnel that could use the system, but then you should always have security measures that not all personnel will have access for all level of information. So for example, the doctors could have access for all level of information, but the rank and file or maybe the lower rank medical technology should only be able to perform the test and maybe tag a result. And that's it. They should not be able to access clinical information, so that there will be data protection as well. So again, all these features had to be available in the system. So you have restrictions of access, you have accommodation of multiple personnel, and also accommodation of all the instruments in the laboratory. I think these are very essential elements of the LIS. Although I have not known of any document stating that these are listing down all these requirements. I think in our experiences is very important.
Okay, so there is no like accredited LIS system. It's not yet available.
Yeah, so far I don't think any organization has recommended anything. And with our exploration of the different services available, most of them are similar. But then in the end, I think the basis of choosing one is whether the service that you want or you need
Yeah,
can be
all right.
provided or not. Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, we move to the next question from Shirley from Samarinda. For Mr. Rodelio, what are the responses and strategies for dealing with hackers and malware in hospital LIS? I think this important question.
Yes,
Please-
definitely. Yeah, very significant question. So for us, we have a IT security provider. So that's very important because all we are dealing here with are patient data. Therefore, it has to be protected. So far, we have not had any incident, of being hacked. So lucky for us. But then, of course, the security IT of the hospital is very critical. You need to have this system in place. So you have to have a very good antivirus provider. You also have to have very good security, and also you have to have installation of very strong firewalls that external access can be limited. So this is what we have, no? So we have not had any incidents so far. We have been using our LIS for more than 10 years, and we have not had any incident of being hacked or having outside access to our data so far. Yes.
Okay. For the next question for Meliani, do you have any list of things like a checklist on what to consider in choosing what might be the best, or at least most fitting LIS software at our life might be needed?
Yes, we did have. So at the start, we already know what we wanted. And based on the previous experiences we have with our older hospital, because this is our newer hospital, but not really new. Okay. We already know what we want. So what is essential for us, of course, is the access to instrument, access to personnel, having the inventory of the reagents, as I mentioned in one of the slides in my presentation, and of course the availability of releasing all the results to the requesting parties. So we have connections with a portal wherein the patient can access their lab results. We also have connection with the portal wherein the doctors who requested for those laboratory tests can access the results as well. So all of these are provided by the LIS. So it's easy, no phone calls, no running after one person and another, and therefore just click a button in your computer, then you can already see what you need. So these are all essential features, So we have to have all this installed and available for us before we acquired the LIS system that we are using now. So the other providers could also give such, but then of course, there are some providers with limitations and some providers with more available parameters. And of course, we also have to consider the cost. So we have to have a cost efficiency analysis as well, that this is the amount and this is what we get compared to other systems that are more expensive, or maybe systems that are cheaper, but then will not be able to provide what we need. So all of this has to be considered.
Okay. Okay, we go to the next question from Ryan. Can we integrate the LIS into the same system as hospital information system so that the whole process from the clinician ordering to the reporting of the results and critical values can be done in the same system and workflow?
Maybe the best answer to that is that you can have the LIS and connect it to the hospital information system. So this is what we have now. So our hospital now is operating an electronic medical record wherein all the clinicians can access the data from their patients to their process of managing the patients, and also inputting the therapeutic regimen as well as the lab requests that they want to be done. So this can be done in the EMR. The EMR is connected to the LIS, and the LIS receives information of the laboratory requests that they need, and also will be allow them to access the lab results of the test that they have requested. So this is what we have, no? So it's a system that is separate but then connected in terms of laboratory tests. So they can order laboratory tests that can be received by the LIS. They can also access lab results that is done in the LIS and transferred to the EMR. So this will be the connectivity. So these are two systems connected, but then the access will have limitation. So for example, for us in the lab, we will not be able to see what they have done to the patient, although we will have the clinical data, but then the other forms of management like the medicine and also the drugs that are given or maybe the procedures that are done other than the laboratory results will not be accessible by lab personnel. The doctors can access them, but not all the medical technologists. So these are restrictions. So the connectivity essentially will on the level of lab requests and lab results. So that will be the connectivity between the EMR or the HIS, whichever you have, and the LIS.
Okay, I think I need to ask some question for you, Mr. Rodelio. How about the critical failure results? How about the how can you give the information for the clinician about the critical failure result?
Okay, so here in our hospital, we have met with the different departments and discuss which analyte will they require critical values for. So for example, the most popular, of course, will be glucose and electrolytes, no? Sodium, potassium. Yeah.
Yes.
So we will have to discuss with them at what level they want the notification be received. So after that, we have to list down all the analytes that will be under the critical value reporting list. So we have quite a number, but then of course we did not include all the analytes because that will be very difficult. So once it's in the list, the LIS can alert that there is a critical value. And therefore, we have to relay the result to the requesting party. So the relaying of result to the requesting party could either be through text messages, SMS, or an alert in the patient's in the nurse station where the patient is confined, and an alert to the resident or the attending physician. So all of these are available for us, and we have to record the time elements involved. So for example, a critical value came out of the analyzer and it's tagged as critical, and therefore there's an alert in the laboratory. Therefore, we have to relay that result within 5 to 10 minutes. And after that, we have to know who received the result. So we have to know who received it. We have to get the name, if it's possible, and the time that they received the information. And all of these are recorded in the LIS, that the critical value came up, and it was relayed at this time and received at this time. And therefore, the audit trail could always be complete. So every month, there's a monitoring group that monitors the relaying of results of critical value. And we have to satisfy almost 99% of all those measures that have to be reported within a certain number of minutes. Of course, sometimes we do get lost, no, that there's no one receiving the information, the doctor is not responding. I think this happens also in other places, and therefore we don't reach maybe 100% all the time, but then as much as possible, maybe around 99% will be very good. So this is what we do now for critical value reporting. So this covers, again, as I said, majority will be glucose and the electrolyte results. And sometimes some of the cancer markers could be part of the critical value reporting. Yeah.
So what kind of alerts? There is something, some sound or something in the word of the patient?
Yes.
A sound?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a sound in the computer system. There's also sound in the text messaging system. There is, yes.
Okay.
And we have to know who received it. So we have to know who received the information.
Okay. Last question from me about the auto-validation. Do you have a manner of auto-validation for the urine analysis result? urine.
For the auto validation, if it's normal, as we have set rules with that, then therefore it could be auto validated. So what is normal? So we have limitation in the chemical analysis of urine samples. Like all the chemistries are negative. For example, the cells, the white cells and the red cells are within their limits. So it should be less than 5 or less than 3, depending on the system that or on the number that you want to input, because the inputting of the number depends on the lab, no? And in fact, it has to be agreeable with the end users as well. So we set these limits with meetings with the different departments also, that this is acceptable to them before we set it up. And therefore, as soon as the setup is complete and we have already sort of determined that it's agreeable to the majority, therefore we implement it, and therefore you can auto-validate these results. So similar process can be done with clinical chemistry results, hematology, and also serology. You can also do the same thing. But it has to be agreeable to all departments, or maybe majority of the departments requesting for that particular test.
Yeah, because the urine result is complicated. There are a chemical result and the microscopic result. So yeah, we have to make the rule, the perfect rule for that. If we need to make the auto
Yes.
for the result.
I think it is best to have an instrument that will perform both in automation. So we have had those instruments utilized since we started this hospital. So we have an automation for the chemical test. We also have automation for the microscopic examination.
Okay.
One
Profida,
question more
any question?
from the chat room.
No, we will answer the question after this session, Prof, because it is already 11 past 12 o'clock or at Bali time. So we have to stop or end this discussion or stop this scientific session. And who will give the winner, me or MC?
MC.
We will show the winner.
Yeah, I will give the time to MC. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for Prof. Ida. Thank you for Mr. Rodelio for the informative presentation and sharing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the interesting presentations, Prof. To the end discussion as well. And may I kindly request speakers and moderators to remain for a moment, as we would like to take up group photo sessions. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we would like to invite all speakers and moderators to stay on your camera. Then I will count from 1 to 3 to start taking the photo. Okay. Okay, give me some big smile from you all. Okay, 1, 2, 3. One more. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are honored to extend an invitation to Prof. Dewi, Prof. Ida, Dr. Rodelio to participate in today's webinar. We hope for the opportunity to collaborate again in the future. Wishing you continued good health and may you have a successful return to your activity. Terima kasih Prof. Ida.
Pemenangnya siapa, Okta? Dicantumin
Iya,
Thank you.
nggak sabar ya, Prof. Thank you. Okay.
Winner, Okta. Winner.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Dr. Rodelio. Dan saatnya ini dia yang ditunggu-tunggu untuk para peserta webinar yang berhak mendapatkan buku eksklusif dari Sysmex Corporations. Nah, ini dia. Selamat kepada Dr. Rizkullah Makmur dari Unhas, kemudian ada Dr. Dian dari Silom Surabaya, kemudian ada Dr. Iva dari Undip, kemudian ada Dr. Shirley dari RSIA JMB Samarinda, dan Dr. Meliani dari USU. Wah, selamat kepada kelima pemenang yang beruntung berhak mendapatkan buku eksklusif dari Sysmex Corporations. Nah, untuk informasi pemenang boleh di chat di sini, Dok. Boleh langsung ketik kepada kami atau mungkin bisa kontak di email yang tertera pada layar, yaitu di sysmex.scientific@sysmex.co.id. Oke, sekali lagi kepada dokter yang berhasil mendapatkan buku for free, boleh menghubungi email melalui sysmex.scientific@sysmex.co.id. Oke, baik. Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu sekalian, sebelum kita mengakhiri acara, mohon untuk dapat berkenan mengisi presensi form yang akan tampil pada layar Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu sekalian sebagai tanda presensi atau absensi pada hari ini. Ya, saat ini sudah tampil pada layar Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu. Mohon untuk dapat scan QR-nya, kemudian mohon berkenan untuk dapat mengisi beberapa isian yang ada pada form tersebut. Baik, kami akan tunggu sampai dengan pukul 2 siang nanti untuk dapat Prof, Dokter isi sebagai tanda kehadiran pada webinar kali ini. Oke, baik, sambil mengisi, mohon izin kepada Prof, Dokter, dan Bapak Ibu, saya ucapkan terima kasih untuk narasumber, moderator yang sangat luar biasa. Semoga ilmu yang diberikan pada webinar kali ini menjadi manfaat bagi kita semua. Terima kasih juga kami ucapkan kepada seluruh pihak yang telah mendukung terselenggaranya acara webinar yang diselenggarakan oleh Collegium Polyclinic dengan tema Optimizing Laboratory Efficiency with Laboratory Information Management System. Saya Okta mewakili seluruh panitia pada acara. Mohon izin undur diri dan sampai berjumpa kembali di acara yang mendatang. Mohon maaf apabila masih ada yang kurang berkenan dan kami kepada seluruh peserta webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sehat selalu, Prof, Dokter, Bapak, dan Ibu.